Hi everybody, welcome to Simply Scuba. I'm Mark, a former scuba instructor, and I'm answering questions from Google about reels, spools and dSMBs. These have all become an essential safety tool for scuba divers so that we can better be seen on the surface. So let's jump straight in with the questions. What is the difference between a reel and a spool? The main difference between a reel and a spool is that reels have handles and moving parts. A spool is a very simple device and it's basically just a spindle with a bunch of line, a finger hole or a pinch grip in the middle and some holes around the edge so that you can lock it in place. They don't tend to have many moving parts, if any, and they tend to be much more compact. The overall size of the spool denotes how much a length of line can be fitted to it. A reel often has a handle that has a spool attached onto it so that you can hold onto that handle that doesn't move and then the spool can spin to pay out line, or you can hold onto that handle to wind the line back in by rotating the spool. Standard reels usually have ratchets that allow you to reel in the line, but it won't pay out unless you hold down some kind of switch. Cave reels are similar, but they don't tend to have ratchet systems on them, and they typically have a lot more line on their reels or their spools so that you can lay down plenty of guideline in overhead environments so you can find your way back out safely. But as general, reels have handles, spools don't. How do you use a scuba spool? They're quite easy. If you're just sending up a buoy, you disconnect the bolt snap. You then secure that bolt snap onto a D-ring so you don't lose it. Pull the leader free from the spool so that you can actually pay out some line. Attach that leader to the buoy. If you thread that leader loop through the D-ring on the buoy itself, and then pass the spool through that leader loop to secure it in place. Now hold the spool gently between two fingers or a finger and a thumb so that it can spin freely, and then inflate the buoy. The buoy will then shoot up to the surface. Just continue to pinch the spool until it stops. Then you can take the bolt snap off of the D-ring, hook it onto the line and then lock it in position by clipping that bolt snap onto one of the holes. To wind it in, you just do that by hand, and then when you're done, if you don't want to leave the spool attached onto the buoy, pass the leader through one of the holes and then just with a little bit of slack, and then you attach the bolt snap like this so that it's secure and unlikely to undo itself. Give it some practice out of the water and always keep the line nice and taut. It's very easy to get wrapped up and around you, and then when you're caught when the line is loose, so try and always keep that line as taut as possible. What is a delayed surface marker buoy? There are a few types of surface marker buoy for scuba diving. An SMB is kind of an all-encompassing term for a buoy that floats on the surface to mark a location. But while some SMBs are inflated at the beginning of the dive and then always float on the surface for the entire dive, you just tow it behind you, a delayed surface marker buoy, a dSMB, you bring that down with you on the dive with it deflated. Attached onto a D-ring or is safely in a pocket, the dSMB stays with you on the dive until you want to send it up. dSMBs are inflated underwater by either blowing into them or using an airline, and then it shoots up to the surface, hopefully attached onto a spool. Typically towards the end of the dive, just to signal that you're surfacing and where you are underwater, to let boat traffic know that you're exactly there underwater, as they may not be able to see your bubbles, and that's probably the only thing that marks your location on the surface without a surface marker buoy. But a dSMB is just a buoy that comes down with you on the dive and then you send it up during the dive. It's not inflated at the start. What color is a dSMB? Any color you like, really. I've seen quite a few, but some colors are much better in certain circumstances, and certain colors do mean something in certain circles as well. The most common color is red or orange. Officially it's red, but a lot of them are kind of an orangey color. Red marks a location in the water and tends to be the most obvious on the surface in most lighting and water conditions. Yellow dSMBs can actually mean emergency. Some divers, they take down a red and a yellow dSMB, but they only send up the yellow if there's an emergency, to let the surface know that there's an emergency underwater and to give them time to get ready whilst you ascend. Black is probably the third most common colour, but they're not liked in some places. They do work quite well in very bright conditions, especially when the sun is behind the dSMB, but black isn't the most obvious colour to stand out against the blue waters, especially in dark waters, so not everybody likes them. Personally, I've seen pink, white, probably green, a few other colours out there in my time, but red or orange is by far the most common and the most practical, as it matches the diver down flag. So yeah, that's the most common colour to go for. When should I deploy a dSMB? Whenever you need the surface to know your location. Try and avoid doing it if there's anything above you, especially another scuba diver, but say if you start a dive and you find yourself caught in a strong current that you weren't expecting and wasn't on the dive brief, send up a dSMB immediately to give the surface the best chance of noticing where you are and where you're going. If they don't know about that current, then when you miss your maximum dive time and you don't come back up to the surface, then they're going to be looking for you in the wrong place. But for most dives, it's just towards the end when you're ascending, or preferably before you ascend. Send it up before your safety stop at least, and it can act as a very good visual reference of how quickly you're ascending, and it lets boats know exactly where you are and that you're surfacing around there soon. The deeper you deploy it, the less gas it takes to fill by the time that it hits the surface, because remember, the gas that you put into it is going to expand as it ascends, and you tend to have better control of your buoyancy the deeper down you are. So if the buoy just pulls you up a little because you've held on to it a little bit too long, it's not going to have as much of an effect on your buoyancy when you're deep down compared to when you're at like 5 meters. And there we have it, a handful of questions about reels, spools and SMBs answered. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them down in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe if you found this useful in any way. Thank you for watching everybody, and of course, safe diving.